Do you ever wonder what makes a person kill? Is it anger, insanity, or something else entirely? Well, here are the top 10 most disturbing serial killers you've never heard of. Some of these cases will leave you speechless. So viewer discretion is advised for this top 10 countdown. Let's get into it. Number 10. Harold Shipman. He was a seemingly ordinary English doctor who lived a life of luxury. But behind closed doors, he was a monster. Between 1971 and 1998, Shipman was responsible for the deaths of at least 250 patients, making him one of Britain's most prolific serial killers. He would inject air into the bloodstream of his elderly patients, causing them to die slowly and painfully. And when autopsies were performed, Shipman would forge the medical certificates, making the deaths look like they were caused by natural means. The motive behind his gruesome actions is unknown, but it is believed that he may have been motivated by greed or a desire for power. Shipman was finally caught in 1998 when one of his colleagues noticed that he was carrying around an unusual amount of diamorphine, a powerful painkiller. When his home was searched, investigators found a list of names and dates which matched the deaths of several of his patients. He was convicted of 15 murders and given 15 life sentences. Number 9. Eileen Wuornos. She was a prostitute who turned into a deadly predator. In the early 1990s, Wuornos went on a killing spree in Florida, murdering 7 men. She would pick up clients and then shoot them dead with a .22 caliber pistol. Her motive was reportedly self-defense, as she claimed that all 7 men had tried to assault her while she was working as a prostitute. However, many people believe that her killings were actually motivated by greed. After her arrest, she became the first woman to be sentenced to death in Florida since the reinstatement of the death penalty in the United States. No. 8. Peter Kürten. This German serial killer was known as the Vampire of Düsseldorf. Between 1929 and 1930, he murdered 9 women and children, and was suspected in many more attacks. What made Kürten's crimes so disturbing was the ritualistic nature of his killings. He would select his victims at random, typically targeting women and children who were out alone late at night. He would then drag them to secluded areas, where he would assault and murder them. Kürten was eventually caught and sentenced to life in prison, but he was released in 1956, after serving 25 years of his sentence. Number 7. Jeffrey Dahmer. He was an American serial killer who murdered 17 men between 1978 and 1991. Dahmer's crimes were particularly gruesome, as he not only killed his victims, but also engaged in cannibalism and necrophilia. He would often dismember his victims and keep their body parts as souvenirs. Dahmer was eventually caught and sentenced to 15 life sentences, plus 40 years. He was killed in 1994 by a fellow inmate. Number 6. Richard Ramirez. Known as the Night Stalker. Ramirez was a serial killer and rapist who terrorized California in the 1980s. He was responsible for at least 13 murders, but his actual victim count may have been much higher. Ramirez was particularly brutal in his approach, often torturing his victims before killing them. He was finally caught in 1989 and convicted of 13 counts of first-degree murder. He was sentenced to death and died in 2013 while on death row. Number 5. John Wayne Gacy. This American serial killer was known as the Killer Clown, because he would dress up as a clown and perform at children's parties and hospitals. But behind the mask, Gacy was a monster. He was convicted of murdering 33 young men and boys in the 1970s. He would lure his victims to his home under false pretenses and then strangle them. Many of his victims were teenagers who had run away from home or were known to frequent gay bars and beaches. Gacy was executed by lethal injection in 1994. No. 4. Ted Bundy. One of the most infamous serial killers in history. Bundy confessed to murdering at least 30 women in the 1970s. He was known for his good looks and charisma, and he used this to his advantage, often befriending his victims before killing them. Bundy was captured in 1975 and sentenced to death. He escaped from prison twice but was recaptured. He was executed in the electric chair in 1989. No. 3. Gary Ridgway. Known as the Green River Killer, Ridgway is one of the most prolific serial killers in American history. He was convicted of killing 49 women in the 1980s and 90s. Many of his victims were sex workers who he would pick up on the streets of Seattle. He would then take them to secluded areas where he would strangle them. Ray was finally caught in 2001, when DNA testing linked him to the murders. He was sentenced to 49 life sentences plus 10 years. Number 2. Luis Garavito. Known as the Beast of the Andes. Garavito is one of the most prolific serial killers in history. He is believed to have murdered over 300 boys in Colombia in the 1990s. He would target poor families living on the outskirts of towns and cities, and would often lure the boys to secluded areas with promises of food or money. Once there, he would beat, abuse, and strangle them. Curato was finally caught in 1999 and sentenced to 1853 years in prison. Number 1. J.R. Van. He is believed to be the most prolific serial killer in history, having murdered at least 600 women in Finland between 1984 and 2001. Valois' motive was sexual sadism, and he would often target vulnerable women such as prostitutes and drug addicts. He would strangle his victims, and some reports indicate that he may have even engaged in cannibalism. Vio was finally caught in 2001 when DNA testing linked him to one of the murders. He was convicted of 54 murders and is currently serving multiple life sentences. Well, that's all for this video. Thank you for watching. Please subscribe if you haven't already, and we'll catch you next time.